Lastly, I'm an embodied sales and leadership coach. I help leaders in unconventional industries. So that's pole dance studios, cannabis studios, lash techs, anybody who doesn't have a traditional corporate background. I help you grow in your leadership. So glad you're here. So today I want to talk about the first step you should take if you want to fire yourself in your business. If you're going to fire yourself, what do we need, class? What do we need if we're firing ourselves? We need a replacement for ourselves. So that is the first thing that once we get past the mindset pieces, which I've talked about in previous videos, like just a quick recap, you need to have a mindset that, number one, you really do want to step away from your business. Number two, the second belief shift you need to shift is that you're the only person who can sell. You're the only person who can do this job, because that is a fallacy. That is not true. But you must embrace that so that you can have the patience for what I'm getting ready to say next. So in order to leave, you got to replace yourself, right? And so how do you find leaders in a sea full of part-timers? That's really what this is about. How do you find your replacement in your part-timers that you have? So here's the first thing that you need to do is you need to look at the team you currently have. When we have small businesses in unconventional industries, typically it's already difficult to attract talent to work for us. And so if you're looking for a leader who doesn't really know much about you, that's going to make the search longer. So my first thing that I would admonish you to do is look at who's already on your team, who's showing leadership potential. Leslie, what does leadership potential look like? So glad you asked. Leadership potential looks like someone on your team who not only owns their job, but they own their heart torture work, meaning that they have the same level of passion and commitment to the values of your studio, your shop, your business. They think like you, meaning their heart towards the customer is the same as yours. How do you know this? These are people who show up early, focused, ready to go. These are the employees who are telling you, you're not having to beg them. They're coming to you and telling you, this is what customers said. This is what I'm experiencing. How can we make this better? They have a positive energy about the work that you're doing. Attitude over aptitude all the time. So who's already on your team who's exhibiting leadership abilities? Are they the type of employee who's gathering the other team members together? I think about this one particular employee who I have, who I promoted, by the way. And when I go to sell my next brick and mortar business, it will be sold to her. We've already agreed that, even though that's some years down the line, we've already agreed that because of her work ethic and her commitment to my brand and to me as a leader, here's your reward. You will be able to buy this business one day. But before we got to that conversation, I remember working with her when she was just a party instructor for me, and her energy was just contagious. She was always like the other party instructors. They might have been complaining about a crazy situation that happened with the client. This particular employee was always the one who would say, oh, you know what? That was crazy. Because remember, that's such a small percentage of people we deal with. Most of the people are amazing. And I would just look. We would be in a staff meeting and I would be like, hey, that's my line. Right? But her energy was one of, I want this to be right. What we're doing here makes a difference. I enjoy this. Guys, don't let you, sorry, my dog brought his toy in here. Her energy was just like, don't let this get us down. Let's keep our eyes on the main thing. Immediately, her ability to rally people around a positive cause says, leadership, right? So who on your team is already demonstrating that they could go to the next level? That's what I want to leave you with today. Something small, something very actionable. Identify who your star players are. That's what I call those people. Who is a star player on your team who could possibly step into a leadership role? That's step one. Step 2, once you've identified that person, now you got to bring them in close. Here's a mistake that I made, okay? I learned with the employee that I'm talking to you about, but before that, I didn't learn this. So, right? So this is a mistake I made. I always tell clients who work with me, part of the money you pay me is so that you cannot do the stupid things that I've done. Because I've done some stupid-ish over the years, and I want you to avoid it. So I remember when I first opened my business and I was in year 3 of my business and ready to hire my first management level employee. Much like the management level employee I have now, I did a good job in terms of identifying the heart of the person. I did a great job because as an Enneagram 8, I usually can read people very quickly and can feel where they're at. And so I did a good job in terms of identifying who had leadership potential, but this is where I dropped the ball. I brought her in close, just like I'm saying now, but when I brought her in, it wasn't to kind of ease her into it. It was kind of like, you are going to be our studio manager. I love you. I love your energy. I love that. I'm giving a laundry list of things that I love about her. And you're going to be my studio manager. And so you know what I did? The fatal mistake I made was I gave her responsibility before I knew how to delegate it. So it was like putting her in front of an open fire hydrant and all of that pressure coming at her. So you know what that did? It made her flustered. It made her feel inadequate. The job wasn't getting done. And so basically, I ruined a good leader. I ruined the relationship or the potential to find my replacement by me not being effective in terms of planning how I was going to delegate. It was about me rushing because I needed the help, right? And this is the thing, man, I've been there. I know what it's like for you to be exhausted because you're doing all the things in your studio, all the things in your shop. You're opening, you're closing, you're the chief everything officer. I know what that feels like to want to just bring someone in to just relieve the pain, right? But in me bringing her in that way, what it did was it overwhelmed her and it took away the zeal that she had because it was too much, and that was on me. So to not make that mistake, when I ran into this other leader who I hired years later, I just brought her in close and started having dialogue. So point number 2, after you've identified your star player, point number 2 is let's just start having dialogue with them. Feeling them out, giving them an opportunity to ask you questions to see where you're going. But one of the biggest things that you need to do in that bringing them close period is you need to state the vision that you have for them. Leaders create other leaders. Okay. And one of the biggest things you can do for a person who you're calling higher, who you're calling into their leadership abilities, is to affirm that it's there. I know it meant the world to my current manager when I said to her, out of a sea full of part-time employees who did the same job she did, who did a good job. These aren't people who are doing lousy jobs. But for me to say to her, I see that you have the ability to manage. I see that you have the spirit to lead. I see how smart you are, how creative you are, how dedicated you are. All the things that I saw in her. It was also creating a vision for who she could be. And I would tell her, like, I think that you could lead this team. What do you think? Is this a desire you have? And initially she was like, oh my gosh, I'm flattered. Like, I appreciate it, right? But it eventually grew into going from appreciation to, I think I can do this, right? So it went from appreciation to inspiration. Like, yeah, I think I can do this. And that went from I think I can to, you know what, I want to do it. And so being able to have that conversation set her up from the get-go to be more successful than the mistake I made a googob of years ago. Okay? So those are the two things I want you to take away if you want to fire yourself from the day-to-day in your small businesses. Number one, there's probably someone already on your team who you could promote. Look differently. Put on a different set of lenses when you're looking at your team this week. Who's exhibiting the heart for your business? Who's exhibiting their compassion and their loyalty to the brand and to you as a leader? Look and see who's there. And once you identify that person, point number two, bring them in close to start having a conversation. But the primary first conversation is you affirming their leadership, you affirming their ability, you showing that you believe in them until they can show that they believe in themselves. All right, my loves, hopefully this was helpful. It's Flourish Fridays, so I hope you're flourishing. I will see you next Friday. If you have any questions, if you need any help, I am taking one-on-one clients for my Unshakable Leadership. You can always DM me. I will talk to you soon. Have a great day.